Northborough Southborough Regional School Committee. So at this time, is there any audience sharing? Public comments? All right, hearing none. Item B, action on minutes. Looking to approve and release the open meeting minutes of June 17th, 2024, and the special open meeting minutes of July 15th, 2024. Moved by John. Second by Sean. Any comment? Not hearing any comments, there'll be a roll call vote. John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The motion passes unanimously. Item C, educational policy. There is none at this time. D, new business. Greg?
Sure, so we, on August 26th, 2024, feels like weeks ago, because we welcomed 831 faculty to the Algonquin JFK Auditorium. So it's always a great opportunity to gather as 3 districts, 10 schools, and 1 community of learners. We had 1,202 students begin school on August 29th, and just want to commend the high school team for doing a great job making sure that they were prepared for the students' arrival, and they did an excellent job welcoming, and I think that it's a testament to Sean and the leadership team at the high school and teachers. So this evening we do have a few updates from some of our directors around work that did happen over the summer. So we'll start with our extended school year, so our student support services. We have Kate Clark.
Yeah, right here, sir. You can, that'd be wonderful. That's what you want.
Thank you. The Extended School Year Program, ESY, welcomed pre-K to age 22 students to Algonquin for the summer. It was a very successful program, and there are many people to thank for their contributions. First, I want to thank Helene Desjardins, who couldn't join us here tonight, but she is our ESY leader. And I also want to thank our fellow student support admin, Marie Allen, Deb Lemieux, and Jennifer Henry, for all of our collective work in the program. I'd also like to thank the central office team, including human resources, finance, transportation, technology, and our health and wellness department. And we also extend our thanks to Principal Vevin and the wonderful Algonquin team for welcoming the program back to the building. Many thanks to the facilities team at Algonquin, led by Mike Corman. Mike and his team worked extremely hard to prepare the building for the upcoming school year while also supporting all of our needs through ESY. Also, a special thanks to our slate coordinator, Kelsey Rondo, for coordinating the day-to-day in the building during this time. This was our 3rd summer having the entire ESY program at Algonquin. We have all of the programming housed in one building, as I said, pre-K to age 22. It continues to allow us to utilize our resources and efficiently run service delivery, like nurses, special education teachers, PTs, speech and language OTs, BCBAs, just to name a few. This summer we had 182 students across our districts, pre-K to 22, attend the ESY program, and that includes walk-in services for speech, OT, PT, and specialized reading. I'm sure you can imagine what a busy building this is in the summer. More school year staff chose to teach during the summer this year, which really helped with our consistency and familiarity for our students. For our site coordinator, out of our site coordinator teachers, SLPs, OTs, specialized reading, and BCBAs, we had 22 internal staff and 8 external hires. For our nursing support, we had 2 internal nurses cover the duration of the program this year. For our ESPs, we had 49 internal staff and 34 external hires. Some of our external ESP hires are people who work for us only in the summer, and they return each year. We get very excited about them returning each year. They do appreciate coming back to our programming. 19 of them from last year came back this year. And some of our external hires for ESPs were then hired this school year for open ESP positions we had, and they were very excited to join our district. The ESY parent survey will be sent to parents for their feedback. And overall, that's just a summary of the overall programming for the summer.
Thank you very much.
Questions?
Any questions or comments? I guess I would have a question. Would you say you had an easier time hiring people this summer than you traditionally have in the past? And if so, why do you think that was?
I think, and again, Helene does a lot of the hiring work. We do it collectively as well, but I think having so many staff return this year felt different for us. It felt a little bit easier for hiring for us. It was nice to work with them around what they really wanted to do in the summer. We do always have a push for hiring in the summer, but now that we're seeing some return people come back, it feels a little bit easier as well. But we always do try to recruit. We always try to make it a desirable thing for our own staff to come back to. So
I think the fact that people want to come back is a testament to your program, so thank you very much.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And then next, we have Selby, our Director of Multilingual Learners, providing a summer program update.
Good evening. I am excited to share some highlights from our multilingual summer enrichment program. This year our program took place between the dates of August 5th through 9th and 15th through 12th from 8:45 a.m. to 1:45 p.m. at Proctor School. And many thanks to Keith Lavoie and Sheila Hanna for providing transportation to and from school, as well as to our college trip, which I will talk about later on. And Lonnie Sotier served as the director or coordinator of the program, and Sandy Bonsik, who is the new ELD teacher here at Algonquin, was responsible for developing and delivering the entire curriculum for our enrichment program. And this experience is made possible by funding from our Title IIIA grants. So of the 68 students who participated in grades 1 through 12, 6 of them were from Algonquin. Our theme this year was the Olympics, where students dived, pun intended, into exploration of this historic event. So elementary school students did grade level Olympic themed exercises and curriculum, whereas our middle and high school students began by analyzing primary sources like ancient Greek pottery to understand the origins of the Olympic Games. They explored Olympic venues through a digital escape room and then debated the challenges and merits of hosting the Olympics. And engaged in design challenge to create mascots, torches, and logos. Additionally, they learned about Olympic sports photography and had the opportunity to photograph the Potato Olympics, which were ran by the lower grade level students at the program. They read stories of pioneering Olympians who broke barriers, explored the topics of inclusivity and belonging and its impact on individuals. Our program culminated into a trip to Regis College, providing a glimpse into potential educational and career pathways. The students were taken on a guided tour and had the opportunity to visit different facilities and ask questions. We concluded the program with a celebratory closing ceremonies featuring a parade of athletes, a torch relay, and commitment to good sportsmanship. Our ELD teachers are currently working diligently to welcome both new and returning students and ensuring that they feel supported to start the start of the school year happy, well, and successful. Suzanne and Sandy are also preparing to serve as advisors to the new Changemakers for Good Peer Leadership program that promotes a culture of belonging to empower students. And finally, I would like to extend an invitation to all of you to come and visit us at our first LPAC Multilingual Learner Parent Advisory meeting that will take place on October 10th at 6:30 here at our library at Algonquin. We will be opening up our discussions and conversations with our theme of belonging and exploring what the sense of belonging may look like in each of the family's cultures. We would be delighted to have you join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have capable and will provide transportation, facilities, and a capital plan update.
Yes, and I will pause for a breath in between all three. So, we're just going to start with transportation. As many of you know, the process of preparing for the school year takes all winter and spring to really get going, and then to fine tune things over the summer. I do want to thank the Algonquin community for their registration process. As some of you may remember, this is a non-binding registration that our Algonquin students, we request of them to let us know will they or will they not need transportation. And it really helps us fine-tune our routes, get a little better handle on ridership, and then progressively over the course of the years, as students become of age to drive, and if they are lucky enough to be able to do so, we then are able to remove them from the rosters for our bus routes, which then we are able to capitalize on greater efficiency. So the start of the year is one point, but for Algonquin, the transportation is evolving over the course of the year. It's not just all finished for the first day of school. So far, we have had a good start with transportation for Algonquin. The routes were very similar to last year. There was no radical changes, just tweaks and adjustments based on the addition and subtraction of students that have been enrolled and also need and do not need transportation. However, we have been hit with the bus driver shortage that NRT has experienced pretty heavily for the last 3 years. This has impacted some of our Algonquin buses, and I would like to compliment the administration team here for assisting with communication and making sure those students are as informed as possible as it evolves. So with that driver shortage, we are hopeful that will be resolved before the end of the month. What was I told today? I was told today that we will be whole by the end of the month with the hope of replenishing our drivers. But many of them did resign, medical leave, and leaves of absence at the very beginning of the school year, which did hamper our final stages of planning for readiness for the start of the school year. So overall, I think the students have responded very well. We are in pretty good position. And as those drivers come online, we're going to see it even get better for the Algonquin students. So that is my transportation update for the start of the school year. John?
Probably should have asked this a long time ago. Do we get credits every time, as our contract say, if they don't have enough drivers, we get credits?
The contract, well, that's the other thing I wanted to add. So the other part of this, and just to remind the committee, is that this is our 5th and final year in our contract with NRT. Right. What we hope to capitalize, so during the original contract, we did have penalties for those types of things. But as things evolved through COVID and with a lot of things that were happening, we didn't necessarily execute on all those opportunities for penalty, although the conversation, the bringing them the data of the impact was certainly something we did, and we have been able to really fine-tune that in the last couple of years of daily tracking, what NRT has and has not been able to do. The hope is that with going out for the new contract shortly, and for the start of the next school year, we're going to strengthen that ability to penalize and really have a good mechanism for doing it. Now we know what to expect.
And I will say that last year we did receive credits for it.
Oh, that's right.
Because we did have a few buses that we did not
That's
have
right.
all year, so we did receive credits for that. So
That's correct. Right.
And remind me, will that also take care of the athletics, or that is a separate thing?
They do. So the contract did, the previous contract, and we are forecasting that the upcoming contract will include athletics.
With similar penalties for failure to show up?
Correct.
Okay.
And I would like to thank Athletic Director Masserino for tracking that as well. So we do track it daily through the Transportation Department Central, and Mike does a nice job of tracking that through his office here at Algonquin.
I could tell you a few times where I had to drive.
I'm sure you could. Any other question about transportation? All right, great. Sean?
Maybe I missed this. Is the van transportation? Are we going to get an update on that? And I think that special meeting we voted so we could get money from them, but that probably isn't going to happen now. Is there an update on that, or is that later or something?
So the in-district transportation force is with who needs specialized transportation is through the Aspen Valley Collaborative.
Yeah.
So they did over the summer. The original contractor did not meet expectations, and ABC, in consultation with partner districts, did not continue with that contract. we can provide an update at the October meeting.
Sorry, yeah, I just thought they might want to know that situation.
Move on to facilities? Sure. I do want to thank Mike Gorman and his team. Preparing this 350,000 square foot building is no small task, and I also want to echo what Kate said about just their ability to service the ESY program during that process. It is always a large feat to get this building ready for the start of school, and Mike and his team do an exceptional job, and they also take a lot of pride in making sure that things are ready to go. I will say that the benefit of an earlier end of the last school year being June 13th gave them an opportunity to get to more maintenance projects around the building, which was great. We were able to rely on some outside contractors, and we're able to get a lot of smaller items completed for the start of the school year. So I do want to thank Mike and his team for the overall effort, and I think that if you do have the opportunity to walk around the building, you definitely notice that here at Algonquin, the pride that's taken and the preparation for the start. So I'll dovetail nicely into the capital plans, which is really the good opportunity to share some updates. So do want to thank the committee for giving us the ability to appropriate funding for our priority capital projects for the FY25 school year. The first one I want to comment on is the rooftop unit for the guidance office. This was a relatively new addition to our capital plan last year due to its failure. It has been completely replaced, and right now it's on temporary controls. This was finished just prior to the end of the school year, and Mike Gorman is working closely with the vendor to get that completely connected to our system, and we are expecting that shortly. The second item that was completed was the replacement of the blower fan motor, which is attached to our boiler number 1. It sounds like a small project, but it's really not. It's really involved with the unpacking of the boiler to the point where they can get to the blower motor replacement and getting that done. So that was executed and completed. One of the more complicated projects that we endeavored to do as our first priority was the replacement of, or to build a redundant hot water system, domestic hot water system here at Algonquin. Becky and I worked closely with Mike for a procurement of design, so we did go out for procurement quite late in the spring, I'd say, with the idea that we were going to have that work of a design for that system done over the summer, but we got 0 responses to that opportunity. So we had to regroup. Mike then reached out to a bunch of the vendors that we work with, and I'm happy to report today that we've gotten some movement on that in the last couple of days, where we do have some idea of how much a design is going to cost, and then potentially in the near future options that will be available to us through that investigation. Meanwhile, we took advantage of the opportunity to have the boiler inspected, and that report will also be included in what the options are to move forward with. So we are excited, although delayed, we did make progress in the last couple of days, and I'm happy to report that we're in a decent position to move forward with that. So the remaining priorities that were on the capital plan that are still, we are waiting to make sure that all of those items can get taken care of. And then the ones that have not been done yet, but we have a pretty good idea of what they would be, is a glycol replenishment, which is to really help us during the winter months, make sure we're sustaining antifreeze throughout the system, and lighting controls software upgrade, which we have a pretty good idea, but that's a lower hanging fruit, so to say. So out of all the priorities that we made and the allocation of funding that was done, we have made progress, and we're hopeful that redundant hot water heater will remain on budget and give us some good opportunity to improve and knock things off the capital plan. So I am excited for this update. I do appreciate the committee's support and the progress that Mike made over the summer.
Any questions or comments? I, for one, am really happy to hear that items are being checked off of that
Yes, I am
capital
too.
plan list. And thank you very much to Mike Gorman for making a lot of it happen.
And then in the upcoming months, I'll be updating that plan, and we will show that those items are taken off. It's going to be exciting to put across to those items, because they've been there for a while.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And lastly, we have Stephanie Reinhorn, who will provide an update on professional development, and then new teacher orientation and some curriculum updates.
So as I think about professional development and curriculum, it really starts in the summer There are teachers who put in proposals to do work over the summer, so we had a few from the high school. There was the world language department, there was some curriculum work happening, and in physics, and then in addition, the class advisors from all 4 classes worked together over the summer on aligning the different activities, thinking about sort of the social emotional support to students across all of the classes, and inclusivity in those activities. So there was that summer work happening, and then as we launch the school year, we really start our professional development with our administrators and with our NASA retreat and coming together as an administrative team. We focused on 2 areas for our learning. One was working with our legal counsel, learning more about updates to the Title IX regulations, and about conducting investigations and really all of the many details and sort of practices and procedures that go into all of that. And then the second major topic related to our theme for this year, belonging. And we worked with Phil Fogelman and Danica Manso-Brown, who we have partnered with for several years. They were formerly with the Anti-Defamation League, and are each out on their own now, but continuing to partner with us in our work related to belonging and also in our peer mentoring program. So they worked with us as administrators, and then also worked on opening day with our full faculty and staff. And then they are also working with schools at an individual level. So they worked with the Algonquin community on August 27th. So there's sort of series of experiences throughout the year, and we're sort of continuing that theme throughout the year. The other thing I'll highlight is new teacher orientation. We were right here in the same space, and it's always a really exciting time when we have our mentors, our new mentees, all of our people who are new to the district, and all of our administrators, and welcome them into our community, and really starting with our vision and our core values and our strategic plan, so that they are sort of joining into the work and into our sort of foundational beliefs. I think the last, or 2 other things I'll highlight. One is another area of focus this year is that you have heard about Analytic View, many of you who were on the committee, which is our data platform, which brings together many, many data sources into one well, it's not one dashboard, it's one platform with many dashboards where teachers and administrators can access and analyze data to inform decision-making, to inform teaching and learning, to inform conversations with parents, with students. So this year we have rolled that out to teachers. And so part of the launch of the school year was some teachers had seen it before, but now all teachers have been introduced, all educators have been introduced to the Analytic View platform, and that will also be ongoing work as we continue through the year. And finally, we mentioned earlier at the combined meeting, but we're really excited to welcome Maggie Everdeen as our Director of Equity, Belonging, and Community Engagement. And we'll be excited to introduce you to her as well.
Stephanie, I just
Yes.
wanted to thank you for inviting the regional school committee to the opening day. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was really exciting just seeing all the teachers there and all of the staff actually filling up JFK auditorium. And I really thought that Phil and Danica had a really good rapport. It's clearly the program that you've established for the teachers from a professional learning point of view, it seemed consistent. I appreciated the fact that you're going to cover it off for every single level of teacher throughout the year, just based on timing and where professional days sort out or pan out. But it just really was exciting to see, and as I was speaking to some of the teachers that I had encountered over my years, they all showed up. I was really just impressed with that. I couldn't really understand. I sat there and I was scratching my head. There was really no attendance, but they all showed up, and so it was really good.
It is a really unique kind of moment in
Yeah.
the year of like everyone coming together, and everyone does that. Yeah. Not
So
everyone
thank you.
sits down.
It was really good. it was really well done.
Well, I'm glad you joined us.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks, Tom.
And there's other opening school updates.
Special Education and Civil Rights Monitoring Report.
So Marie Allen will give an overview of the final report.
That's a good
Yes,
idea. Good idea.
definitely.
That makes it a little clearer.
All right, good evening, everyone. This past year, we had our findings for the Special Education and Civil Rights Monitoring Report, and the final report was administered on July 10th, and it is now available on our website. I think it's in your packets, too. Mike McDonald was the chairperson from DESE, and he really worked so well with us, and it was really a collaboration. I wanted to thank my team. This cycle of audits happens every 3 years, and it's called a tiered focused monitoring. And some of my staff is here, Deb Lemieux and Kate Clark and Helene Desjardins, who could not make it tonight, and Jennifer Henry as well as our administrative staff. Everybody works so hard. It's a pretty heavy lift, and it took like a year and a half to gather all this data and get it ready for this cycle. I want to also thank all of central office because they're very involved in gathering some data for us too. This year, or this cycle, we were part of Group A, and our area of focus was student identification, IEP development, so it was very extensive in the file review for all 10 schools. And then they looked at programming and our support services as well as equal opportunity. And in that, we had 2 separate standards. We had 33 special education standards, and 32 of those were fully compliant, and 1 was partially implemented, which I'll talk about in a second. And then we had 4 civil rights standards. So it was a lighter on the civil rights this year, but next cycle will not be. And we were all compliant and fully implemented for all 4 civil rights standards. And those civil rights documentation pieces are completed in conjunction with our civil rights coordinator, Heather Richards, in HR. And I want to thank her for her input, and she'll have a bigger job next time around as well. So our partial implementation of our special ed standard was standard 19, and that involved extended evaluations. Extended evaluations are when the team believes we need more information for a student on an IEP to figure out what type of environment and what types of services they may need. That can either be done within the school, within a sub-separate program within the school, or in an out-of-district session. And they give us 40 days to complete that cycle. Used to be 45 days. So one of our extended evals was found to be held on the 45th day instead of the 40th day. But all of the contents of the extended eval were fine. It was just that timeline. So we've had to put together a corrective action plan to address the timeline issue, and they'll be coming in to review additional extended evals to make sure that we're in the 40-day window. We were also compliant on all indicators, so there's 3 additional indicators that they look at. One is to look at the initial evaluation timelines, indicator 11, the early childhood transitions, which is indicator 12, and secondary transitions, indicator 13. Those happen every single year, but we were compliant on those. And then in April of last year, before the final report was issued in July, we had the opportunity to meet with the DESE chairperson, Michael McDonald, and he gave a couple of overviews of some of the work that we did. He said the responsiveness of our team was notable, and lots of work was done by all members of the team. Our self-assessment, which is this entire thing, was rated at the top of all others that he reviewed this year. So he compared it to other districts. So that was pretty nice to hear. Our continuum of programming is posted on our web with all the locations every year. So that showed openness and candor on the part of our district. Our funding is transparent. Our files were well organized. And then he cited some best practices. So we have letters called N1s that go out with IEPs that summarize what happens at a team meeting. And he said all of those were very well documented, and it demonstrates that we're in regular contact with parents. All of our translations looked good. Our links with our outside services, the Department of Developmental Services, DDS, or Department of Mental Health, DMH, and Mass Rehab Commission, MRC, we invite them to our high school meetings prior to a student leaving. So prior to a student turning 18, they're invited to all the team meetings, and he thought that was a really good practice. Our specific learning disability paperwork was great, and he said that it documents that all team members are in agreement when we make an SLD diagnosis. Our consistency with documentation was across all 3 districts. Our timeout spaces were all good, and the logs were in each of those timeout spaces, and they were in compliance. The other area that he noted was the parent surveys. We did he submitted 1,600 surveys. 193 were filled out by parents. That's a 12% response rate, and he said 10% is considered a very good response rate. 92% said my school welcomes all families, our school is warm and inviting, our CASEL program is amazing, and we as immigrants feel welcome. Some other things noted were that our services are different based on geographic locations, Northborough versus Southborough. 97% felt included as a team member, and they felt like they were a collaborative member of the team as well. There's a trend of parents getting independent evaluations when they disagree with the team's findings. And about 80% were in the agreement range for all of the questions, and that's slightly above average. Northborough pushes for inclusion and least restrictive environment in a good way. And we have, Southborough noticed that we have the 2-grade model, so there's increased transitions for students, but they're happy with the Neary Building project. So survey results were mostly positive, and parents are generally happy with the services across all schools. Are there any questions?
Joan?
About the survey, when is that handed out? I'm sure it's electronic version, but is it at the end of the school year, and is this done annually or biannually?
It was done as part of this audit, so,
Okay.
and it's not done by us. DESE sends it out. They
That's
ask us.
DESE work, okay.
Yes, they ask us for names of all the parents, and I think that went out in March or April? March or April timeframe for them to complete the survey, so it would be part of our audit.
Okay, so we don't do a separate special ed survey on our own that we send out to the parents?
Well, we do for ESY,
Okay,
and then we are working on one that we can send out after team meetings to parents.
Oh,
So that,
perfect.
for this year.
Yeah.
So to see if they feel included, and how did it go, and what might some of the issues be, or concerns, and what went well. So we're working on that.
well, thank you. And in between the 2 meetings, I was back there and talking to all of you. Your enthusiasm is very contagious, and if you're that enthusiastic at 8 o'clock at night, I hate to see what you're like at 8 a.m.
Yeah, you don't want to see that.
Tell me, I'll come over and watch and try to get some of that energy. But thank you very much for all your time and your effort. It is greatly appreciated, greatly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
So this is great, and the positive feedback was wonderful. I'm wondering if, I know outside of the SE19, if there are any areas that you've identified areas of improvement or things that you're focusing on for next time?
We can always improve, we can always be better. One area of focus is more, how do we actually provide services in the classroom as a more inclusive approach. So we're looking at B and C grid services on our IEP service delivery grids to make sure that we, as much as possible, include all of our students in the classroom and in their learning space with their peers. So that's one of the things that we're going to be working on quite a bit this year.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, legislative update?
So no updates at this time.
I have a question about, did the state fully fund free lunch?
So fully funded universal free meals, but there is some predictions that it's underfunded by about 30 million. So we're working with Project Bread and our local legislators to make sure that is not an issue. But at this point in time, it's funded through March, April.
All right, just a general comment. When the state implemented the millionaire's tax, the so-called millionaire's tax, my understanding is that that money would be used to fund the universal free lunch. So the fact that I believe the state has taken in more money than they anticipated with that additional tax, and the burden is still going to fall on local school districts to plug a gap that the state, that there's this anticipated gap. I think it's disappointing the legislature has left that gap with the monies that have become available. I'm just throwing that out there. So thank you. The 2024-2025 school committee presentation schedule.
So in your packet is a draft presentation schedule. Principal hasn't put that together. But again, it is a draft, and there are areas of focus that you would like to see in terms of the presentation schedule. Happy to listen to, and if you need some time to think, also work through the chair.
All right. Approval of grants and donations.
So we have several grants and donations to approve this evening that we're proud about. So the first one is approval of Stronger Connections grant. So Stephanie, if you want to provide a high-level update.
This is a grant that actually Andy McGowan, who's in the audience, is going to be leading up the work on this. It is an opportunity for us to have a committee of educators actually across the 3 districts working to align our work, doing a curriculum instruction review of our health, fitness, so health, PE, and SEL, which is all combined in one new set of frameworks. So this grant will be helping to support that work and provide professional development and stipends for curriculum review and other aspects of that work.
All right, and then the next 4 grants, I'll let Sean speak to.
Sure, as always,
Sean, I'll let you.
Okay. This is one of the best parts of this, my evening, is always sharing some of the donations that we are asking to for approval and receiving. So one is that you see there, the donation to the Robotics Club in the amount of $650 from the New England Robotics Association. Another is a larger gift, and this comes from Intel, and they donated used items, but gently used and very much usable to us. Those were chairs, storage racks, toolboxes, large screen televisions, and tools. That's from a location they are closing down in Hudson. The value of all those many things comes to $15,000. Additionally, we had 2 donations from Wegmans. One is a $300 donation for the student council to run a movie night, which was Moana, and another one was a donation of a $400 gift card for to provide a welcome back breakfast for our teachers at the end of this.
What do we do with 100 chairs?
Replace older chairs that these are like the
Desks,
office chairs,
office
the
chairs.
office kind of teacher chairs that they sit in at their teacher desks.
$15,000?
About 100 chairs, and then many of these other came to roughly that.
Any questions? Other questions? I was thinking the same thing. It's like, where's all that stuff going? All right, I will entertain a motion to accept the Stronger Connections Grant Program FC 0127, Option 2B CHPE implementation in the amount of $50,000. A donation to the Robotics Club in the amount of $650 from the New England Robotics Association. A donation of chairs, storage racks, toolboxes, large screen TVs, and tools with the approximate value of $15,000 from Intel Corporation. A donation of $300 to Algonquin Student Council for their community movie night from Wegmans, and a donation of a $400 gift card to Algonquin Regional High School from Wegmans with the school committee's thanks. Moved by Paul,
Second.
second by Joan. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote. John? Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathleen? Kathleen? Okay, I am a yes. The motion passes unanimously.
Sorry, I was sleeping. Yeah.
All right. Passes even more unanimously. All right. All right, and on to the solar power purchase agreement and lease agreement.
So as you are aware, there currently is a solar array on Algonquin roof that was installed 2 years ago.
2020.
2020, many years ago. So we partnered with Select Energy to get that project installed, and it has been yielding great results for us. Select Energy presented again this past spring, talked about canopy, and also talked about adding another solar array on the roof of Algonquin. So this evening, Keith will provide an update of where we are and the recommendation to the committee.
Yes, thank you, Greg. Yes, as Greg stated, last year we did entertain a proposal from Select for both canopies and an additional rooftop array here at Algonquin. After consideration, the canopy array was removed from consideration, and we really wanted to focus on the roof project and the viability of that. So we connected, and there is a report included in your packet if you want a little more detail. We did connect with Garland Roofing, who is a contractor that we use as our roofing consultant to help us manage our roof projects. They came in and provided a report about how well those portions of our flat roof are doing, and they gave a very favorable report towards having a solar array be added to that area. It is anticipated, though, that during its 20-year PPA agreement, which is also included in your packet, that we would need to remove the panels for the purpose of replacing that roof and then have that reinstallation done at free of charge. And we did verify that that is included in the contract with Select to have done. So one of the other pieces of this is we wanted to make sure that we were going to capture some of the savings that was available. Select had consulted with us about what types of credits would be available, and we are getting in at a perfect time to maximize those credits, which does yield a better PPA rate for us and an overall yield for the entire extension of the agreement, which will be for 20 years. So we are appreciative to Select that they have been good partners for us as we have navigated this, and they understood a lot of the turns that we've taken, but it is our recommendation to move forward with your approval for the power purchasing agreement and lease agreement so that Select can start their work. They do anticipate that with approval tonight, if that is the will of the committee, that they will be able to begin construction shortly. And I'll be connecting with Principal Bevan about that, and I don't anticipate any interruption for the students, and that we would be doing anything that would be disrupted after hours or on weekends, so that the main portion of the work would be done with limited interruption. Maybe we'll see some, dumpsters around the campus, things like that, and if you remember the first project, it was very, very minimal. So, that would be the recommendation that we make of the committee this evening.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Go ahead, Paul.
I've never really understood the meter 1 versus meter 2 thing.
Yeah.
So this is covering 70% of meter 2,
Correct.
and the existing panels, that's on meter 1?
Correct.
And how much is that covering?
So it's about 23% of our overall usage here at the high school.
For the existing panels?
For the
Yes,
existing panels, so which is a combination of both the usage from meter 1 and meter 2. So that's covering 0.25% of that. So the math's a little funny.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that the focus and the real energy they put in the evaluation of this new array is going to be close to 375 kW, which is pretty strong, and we are anticipating a 70% coverage on that.
And the other thing that
And I'll point out too, if you look at what we'd be paying per kilowatt, I think
Yes.
it's, .075.
Yes.
Our existing array, we pay .082, so that it's a bit more favorable rate. And for our Constellation contract for everything else, we're paying 13 cents a kilowatt. So it's a substantial savings, being able to do that with solar.
So if you add it all up, how much of our electricity will be powered by solar?
Probably about half, I would say.
I would say about half.
About that? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
A couple questions. So just to confirm, the agreements that we're looking at here were reviewed by council?
They were.
And then, I guess, do you happen to know the section where it addresses the ability to take the units off and get them replaced at no cost? So when you do the roof repair,
Yep. Mhm.
and then
It's in
maybe,
there. It's in there.
what's that?
The whole contract's in there.
No, I know, I'm just asking what section, so I just find it out, but.
So the good thing
You know
is,
it off the top of your head.
yeah, no, so actually, every section of paneling that we have, both from phase 1 and phase 2, we will have the ability to remove them free of charge and reinstall them free of charge during a roof replacement project.
Keith, he wants to know where
Where, it was just new.
Where in the
Where's it?
document?
In the document.
All over the roof, no,
Yeah.
I
If you
don't
know,
quite
don't know
know.
off the top of your head, that's fine.
That's what he'd like to know.
I'm not quite sure, Matt.
And then, the financial projections, does it contemplate the fact that you'll have units off the roof, so you're not gonna get any production during that period of time? So like, if it's like $50,000 of savings a year, are we gonna lose $25,000 or $50,000 of the savings when those units are off the roof?
We would for that year, and let's say a roof of this size and this magnitude would probably be, a couple 6-month plus project, so yeah, we would be losing those savings at that time.
Was it in the model in terms of arriving at the total amount?
I do not believe it was. It was because the hope is that it would sustain, but it is, predicted that it would be removed.
And then, just to confirm, where we should have expectations of seeing the savings, so in the materials given to us on page 147 of the expenditure report, so 147 of the document, so it's on the expenditure report, electricity, so it's the, I'm trying to locate it right now, the account is 2180, electrical expense of $416,000 a year, so should we expect that number will be reduced by $54,000, if not exactly next year, but the following? Is that where we'll see the savings?
It took us about a year and a half, I think,
Yeah.
to start to see the savings on the last project. I think it was installed in 2020, but it wasn't operational until FY '22.
Yeah, 22. Yeah.
November of '22, and obviously November's not a great time for solar to start to kick in. So we really started to see the impact in FY '23, so I think it's probably gonna take a couple of years for us to see that go
But that's
down.
where we'll see it?
Yes.
Any additional questions? Are the terms of this agreement the same, essentially, with the exception of the financial piece, are the terms of this agreement essentially the same agreement that we have for the panels that are on the roof right now?
Yes.
But the location is different.
Location is different.
And they are also very similar to the arrays that we put on at the Proctor School and Lincoln Street schools over the summer.
So are you looking for a vote from the committee
Please.
to approve this agreement? Does the committee feel at this time that I can straw poll that we're ready to vote on this? Okay. All right. Is there a specific term, or we just to accept, is there a specific language? No? Okay. So at this time, I will.
Power purchase and lease agreement
Yeah.
and release.
Yeah, I got it. So I will entertain a motion at this time to accept the solar power purchase agreement and lease agreement as it appears in the packet.
So moved.
Moved by Joan,
Second.
second by Sean. Any further discussion? All right, we'll have a roll call vote. John?
Yes.
Chris? Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I am a yes, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
We appreciate the support.
All right, on to the superintendent's report. To the committee.
Principal Bevan. Good evening, everyone, and I am going to start off by welcoming our newest student representative, Amelia Sinclair. So Amelia joins us. She was elected as a student council representative and will be representing the voice of the students on this committee. You may recognize Amelia. She's attended many of our meetings and has been the alternate member when some of our other members, Cass, last year had to miss a meeting or two. She's a wonderful member of our school community and a leader, and I've gotten to know her quite well over the last few years, and I think she's going to do a sensational job. So she's an outstanding young woman.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be working with all of you.
She's also really excited that her name is on her nameplate, which we're very excited about too. We have to remind ourselves of that moment that we all have to be recognized as a leader in ways like that. So, so welcome, Amelia. You're going to do a great job. I also want to just take a moment to note, and it did make it into your packet, but Mr. Walsh is a member of our school community, passed away over the weekend. I just thought it'd be an opportunity to just say, he meant a great deal to our community, and he, in addition to the immense longevity he had here in our community of 64 years, he accomplished a great deal and meant a lot to our students, our staff, and our families. So, so he was a really wonderful guy. So I thought I would just take a moment to mention that. So in your slides, I'm having a hard time projecting, but I only had a few limited number of slides, so I don't think it's I don't think you're missing all that much without the projection here, and you have them on your computers if you care to look at them. So I want to just give you a very high level, very brief overview of our top line priorities in our strategic plan for this year that we'll go into greater depth in the future. But we are looking closely or we have already begun training our teachers on the data platform that Stephanie had referenced earlier, that equips me as principal to have a very high-level overview of all of the different data streams coming into our school, but it also affords us, or our teachers, the ability to do that same thing in their classroom with their exact students and have the same kind of version of that that I have, our teachers have, to look at which students they need to be paying close attention to. As much as they pay close attention to all their students, they have a more data-driven approach of doing so. So we're excited about that. That work is underway, and will be ongoing. Additionally, in this year we'll be doing, and we've already begun the work of unifying some of our curriculum documentation. We have not had a really singular approach to documenting our curriculum internally or outward facing, and so we're looking at that with our department head group. And that unfolded to some degree out of the NEASC visit of last year, you might recall. And that's been work we've already made some progress on in the opening few weeks of school and coming out of the end of the summer retreat with our department heads. So that's going to be a task the department heads work very closely on and work very hard on. As well, we're also looking at AI, which is really something all schools, I think, are examining, and we're looking at the use and misuse of AI and how we think about it as a school and how we can govern it, but also how we can explore its potential and its opportunities. So that's something we will be looking at, as a staff, as soon as November is probably the first time we'll really roll up our sleeves and dig into that work. But these are the three big areas that we're going to be working on this year, in addition to many other things that are either already ongoing or just smaller and maybe not worth reporting out tonight. I'd like to also take a moment to introduce our administrative team. We're very lucky to have an outstanding and very talented administrative team. I've been a principal for a long time, and this is about as strong a team as I've ever been part of. I'm very proud to introduce them tonight. So Mr. Andrew McGowan is one of our assistant principals. We have 3 assistant principals. Andy, and I'll explain a reorganization of how we're dedicating the work amongst that team in a moment. Janet Brown, who's also one of our assistant principals, and Matt Gitkind, who is joining us this year. This is he's joining our community this year for the first time. He grew up in Westboro, has worked in Walpole and in Connecticut, and has joined us this year as his first administrative job. And so he's a few weeks into the position after working over the summer in the position. And then we also have Michelle Kalin. Michelle is over here. She is our Career Exploration and Innovation Leader, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And you'll hear more over the course of the year about her hard work to help students understand career opportunities. We're really excited about her position. The way we are reorganizing this work this year, we've taken the 4 different grades. Historically, we've had 2 assistant principals take on 2 of the grades, and the third assistant principal do several large-scale projects. We kind of distributed that work a little bit differently this year. So Andy is overseeing all the 9th graders currently, and then he'll grow as those grades kind of go up through. He'll stay with that class. Janet is working with grade 11. She'll do the same. She'll work through with that class and cycle back through the 9th graders. Andy has been building the master schedule and assigning duties and doing all the work, the complex work that is involved with building the master schedule. And Janet has taken over all the standardized testing responsibilities, which is a big heavy lift. And so those are 2 big projects and tests they're responsible for. And Matt is overseeing 2 of the other grades, grades 10 and 12, and he'll again cycle with those grades as they move up. And Matt is also working on the NEASC decennial report, which I'll explain in a minute. So it's some combination. And in addition to all of that work, we, as an administrative team, we evaluate our teachers, supervise and evaluate teachers. So there's a lot of different ways we divide our time, but those are the big areas and how we're just dividing that work. So we're very much committed to having our students know their administrator and have the administrator know their students and kind of stay with them over time so that they kind of get to know them well and build a relationship with them, because that sometimes is really important when they need the help of an administrator or they've gotten themselves into a position where they need to work with an administrator on a topic. And then Michelle Kalin, as I said, is our Career Exploration and Innovation Leader. She came on board in November, so you've already met her and you may have already seen, we've already reported out on some of her work, but she had a busy summer, which we're going to tell you about in a moment. Does anybody have any questions about Matt, Andy, Janet, and Michelle and their work?
Sean, can you just remind me of some of the responsibilities as a representative of a grade? Like, so what is their job?
Yeah, sure. So I think
There's lots of things.
Yeah, there's lots of things. It can be anything from something discipline related, and which could be like a big, large discipline issue, which in our school doesn't happen all that frequently, down to a student whose attendance is slipping, and we want to get ahead of it, and talking and calling that family and bringing them in to say, how can we work on this together? That would be an example of working with them in a discipline context. They might, for example, if a parent has a question about a conflict they're having with a teacher that they're unhappy with, maybe how if the department head wasn't able to address those concerns properly, the administrator might weigh in and help to rectify that. That's another example. And then those are some of the less enjoyable parts, but they might also oversee like the junior prom and help to supervise all those kind of big, large-scale events and really work closely with the grade that they are kind of that is celebrating that one singular thing. So on a daily basis, so with Mr. Gitkin, he has 600 students. So with that many kids, you always have like there's a fair amount of volume for those kind of things, big and small. And same with Janet, who oversees the 11th grade. The 11th grade, that's a year where you do start to see students' level of independence increase, and so you see impacts on, let's say, attendance on grades sometimes. So the student, their experience with students can really vary from everything from like the celebratory parts of it to the less enjoyable parts, which can be discipline. Thank you. Okay. This summer we were very excited. Michelle had launched our first ever summer internship program, and she had 4 students participate in summer internships. One was with the Northborough Fire Department, another was with a company that does septic services, and 2 others worked with a Firefly Coaters, which is a coating company, that teaches young people how to code. And we had a summer celebration of their internship experience, which really was Michelle kicking it off with a 30-second, thanks for coming, and the students really doing a wonderful job, an outstanding job explaining their internships and the impact and the excitement of it. And it really spoke for itself that all of the internship placements were so happy with how it worked that they were happy to have us send more, and we really anticipate that this coming summer we're going to have many more students taking us up on it and exploring it and participating in it. So these were our early adopters, and it was a big success. Additionally, and I'm just kind of putting this on folks' radar because we will report more out as it goes. We are every high school and college participates, the ones that are accredited participate in NEASC reviews. So NEASC is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, I think is what it stands for. Every school is on a 10-year cycle. We are in year 10 of that cycle where we are doing the full-blown reporting out, and that will happen in March of this year. So you might recall 2 years ago we went through what they call the collaborative conference, where they do kind of a checkup and let us know what we should be working on, so that when we report out it feels like a finish line and they are doing kind of a confirmation of the hard work we've done. And so there's no new surprises, no new big initiatives coming out of that. It is primarily reflective of the work we're doing, and we're really proud of the work we do on any given day. So Mr. Gitkind is helping to organize that visit, but that's the work of our department heads and our staff and myself. Okay. And then you might recall I spoke about this a little bit last year, but around this time last year I came to conclude that our communication strategies for our 8th grade parents just weren't as robust as they could be. They weren't as multifaceted or multi-platformed or multimedia as they could be, and so our participation wasn't as high as I would have liked. So we restructured how we did that work last year, and we are going to redo that this year to make sure we are doing things like, if you might recall, we used to just do 2 live parent presentations, and we replaced that with kind of a detailed text-based overview, a coffee with the principal with a tour of the building while students were in it, which was a concern that we had experienced before. A live event as well, and I think we had recording from that. So what we came to find is if we did this kind of communication more often and more different formats, we get greater uptake, and that's exactly what happened last year. So we're going to be building on those successes this year to make sure our current 8th grade parents, as much as may not be thinking about high school just yet, that we are starting to let them know that we're thinking about them already. And I think that's it.
Sean, can you remind me, on the intern program, was it paid or was it volunteer?
It was volunteered. Actually, no, I'm sorry.
So the students do receive academic credit for the internship experience, and it does go on their transcript. However, in the case of these 4 particular students, I was able to get funding for them to get paid through a grant from the state. It's funded through another organization, but kind of being aware of that grant. We don't have the money to pay the students, and the employers didn't. I was able to get these 4 particular students funded. That won't always be the case. It's kind of situation.
So, congratulations. It's a great program, and I suspect it's going to nothing will grow. I think you might consider asking for some funding for them, because I think while it's educational for them and it's great, it would be good to have something available. And I'm sure the employers would appreciate having some sort of thing, in my opinion. Something to think about.
Yep, and make a note of it, yeah.
Do that.
Just a quick question or comment about NEASC accreditation. My experience has been that there usually is some small level of school committee.
I went.
Involvement. So, as soon as dates are known about the visit and what the committee would appreciate being informed of.
Sure, that's a good point. We'll I think we could probably achieve that pretty quickly because we have the dates for the visit, and we could probably map out what potential dates would work for you guys. So yes.
Sean, I'd like to know if you could highlight something that was in the Community Advocate of Friday, August the 30th, and it was a new initiative that you wanted to start. You had the first year intern and you wanted to continue it next year, and that was to boost Titan Pride. And you had the, I guess it was the sport teams that came in before school started, and they did a banner. And I thought it was really great. It was a great article. Kudos to you. And it said that you wanted to start this. The theme for the school this year is going to be on belonging. So could you just give us a little highlight about that?
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So the theme for this year for the whole district is belonging, and one of the ways we thought we'd emphasize that is create a kind of a physical manifestation where all students could interact with something and then share it to the larger school community. And I borrowed or stole something you see in European soccer communities where the fans create a very large banner. They usually keep it a secret what it looks like, and then they display it and unveil it in kind of a big game. So we kind of borrowed some of the features of those ideas, and we created an enormous banner. It's 19 feet by 19 feet, and the students helped paint it, and then we had students sign it and make a commitment to doing something that aligned with one of our core values, one of our three of our 6 core values that are mostly about belonging. So we had several hundred kids sign it in the cafeteria on the first day of school. We unveiled it at our first football game, and it's currently hanging on the back of the grandstands. If you get a chance to go and see it tonight, if you just kind of loop around the back, you'll see it.
Is it a canvas banner or leather?
No, it's
it's
like
from paper.
it's kind of like a bed sheet banner.
One of those.
So
Okay.
And we bought it in a 5-foot kind of bolt, very long, and one of my assistants is a very skilled seamstress, so she sewed it into the banner shape and size over the summer. So we're very lucky to have somebody who can do that work. And my goal is that the kids will come up with, we can buy the banner, have it sewed up, and they'll come up with a design, they'll come up with a painting, and then they'll take it on from here. The goal is to create it and kind of iron out, not a pun I was aiming for there, but that we overcome some of the smaller barriers to creating this thing that no other high schools do. No other high schools created anything like that. A lot of colleges, so it's really big.
Well, it's nice to take that idea that you saw somewhere from international sport, and it's a nice tradition, and I hope success for next year.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. Some of our research about attendance last year seemed to suggest that schools have very strong school pride and school spirit, just become places where student attendance is higher because kids want to be there. You know, maybe they're not there primarily for the academics, but when the environment is warm and engaging and the school spirit's high, that contributes to better student attendance. So that's an outcome we're hopeful for, but just on its own, higher school spirit's its own beneficial result.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I just have a quick observational note that when you have 30 high school students with 2 gallons of paint, red and orange, many paintbrushes, Principal Bevan orchestrating, it was amazing that everything came together. So
there were several times throughout the whole thing I said to Mr. Mascarino, like, boy, we pulled it off. I never thought we had, pardon me, all the way through, I thought there'd be something that wouldn't work out, but the kids were wonderful and very supportive of it, and I look forward to handing it off and having them make it their own at some point.
That's great. Thank you.
A couple of comments. One, first, that banner is awesome, and I don't know if that probably helped, but I went to the first 2 football games, and it seems to me the energy is just really increased from years past. I don't know if it's the new stadium or what, but kudos to whoever did whatever to make that happen. I mean, it was palpable, really. The other completely different topic, and this the crucial data strategic priority. I see that it says it's particularly about closing achievement gaps through targeted interventions, which wholeheartedly support that. But I would encourage you to also use it on the other end, is identifying the more advanced kids who are doing really well and making sure they're sufficiently challenged.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive. We can do both at the same time. Yes, that's a good point that I'll make note of.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so in your packet is the enrollment report as of August 21st, 2024. So we have 1,202 students. So from the last enrollment report of 23-24 to now, we had 93% of 9th graders matriculate to the high school, and we had 91% of Southborough students, matriculate as ninth graders to Algonquin. So those are strong matriculation numbers, specifically in Southborough. Also in your packet are a few financial memos and information, and I'll turn it over to Becky for the memo of the final budget FY24 budget line item, the final FY24 general expenditure report, and the EMD certification, 24 a statement of revenue, and so on.
Yes, this is a big finance packet this month. So before I get started talking about the actual reports themselves, I just want to explain some of the work that the finance team did over the summer. We are always looking at our processes, and so one of the things that we looked at is the reporting that we do to the school committee in terms of the budget, the monthly general fund report that we're presenting. You as a committee are, the budget is under your purview. That's one of the things that you control, and so we are going to be presenting to you now on a monthly basis any line items that are over budget. We're going to provide you with an explanation, and we're also going to tell you where we've identified those funds elsewhere within the budget. We had been doing this over the past few years, where if there is a line item that does need to be over expended by a department or by the administrative team, they did have to submit a recommendation for budget transfer form to me, where they would make that identification, so I would know that they're going to overexpend here, but we're finding the money elsewhere. We don't make the transfer within our budget. It's really something where I'm tracking that on a manual basis. But now we're going to be presenting that to the school committee for their approval, and we're also looking at these reports with the hope that we're going to be able to provide you with a report that will show you this is your original budget that was approved. These are the transfers that the school committee has approved, and then this is going to be the new budget for that particular line item, so that you'll be able to see that in real time. And we are working with Tyler Technologies, our financial software system, to make that adjustment to the reports. So that's why this report might look a little different than it has in the past. So with that being said, for fiscal year 2024, you can see that the district did fully expend $26,086,279, and then we also had encumbrances at the end of FY24 of just over $230,000. Those encumbrances represent purchase orders that were issued throughout FY 2024 that we had not yet received invoices on as of June 30th. And the Department of Revenue, actually this is the second year that we're reporting this way to committee. They do require that we continue to maintain those encumbrances on this report. We had done it a different way in previous years. I am happy to report that as of today, we have less than 6,000 of that 230 that still remains outstanding. So we've done a lot of work to make sure that we close out FY24. The ending balance on the FY24 report is $273,705, and so that money will actually fall to our excess and deficiency balance. If you look at that, the memo that I did provide you, there were 29 out of the 78 function codes that were being reported as overexpended in last fiscal year. I will say that many of those line items were budgeted perhaps in other line items. For example, long-term substitutes, that's a new account code that we are using. That was budgeted in our teacher salary line item, as well as the tuition reimbursement. We are now putting that in a different line item that aligns with the DESE chart of accounts. And so it was budgeted, it was just in a different line item. So that is really the bulk of these over expenditures in FY 2024. They do total just under $1 million. It's $951,000 out of a $26 million budget. And so I think that the finance team, and with the help of the administration here at the high school, we really have been able to manage the FY '24 budget nicely. And so I would ask that the committee vote to approve this report until audited, and that they vote to approve the function codes that were overexpended in FY '24.
Does anybody have any questions?
It's a lot.
I just have a question here where it says, this is one of the overexpended function codes for non-public schools. I think it says it was over expenditure of $365,000. Was that an unanticipated cost, or was that it was just transferred from another?
It was transferred from another account, but there were some additional tuition costs, but I would say the bulk of that actually was we did do some prepayments. By state law, we are able to prepay for special education tuitions. We can pay up to 3 months for private schools. And then we can also pay 1 full year for collaboratives. We did not do that in this budget, but we did make the decision to prepay some tuitions. And that will obviously help with this year's budget.
So I was gonna ask, so what was the source of funds? Was it just unbudgeted, or other cost center, other cost lines that you didn't
Other
spend?
cost lines that were under budgeted. What we'll do, and you'll see this in '25, is going forward, we're gonna tell you exactly which account it's coming from. Since there were so many lines, I did have some of that tracking done, but we thought we would just show you that the bottom line, we did not fully expend the budget, and so we used those savings from
So,
the.
but by spending the money last year, that reduces the excess deficiency that we have in that current year?
It does, but, and I'm gonna talk about excess and deficiency, we are still within we're actually within the school committee's range. And so that's one of the reasons why we made that decision, was to get us within the range, that the school committee had outlined in the policy.
Or else we would have been over?
Yes, yeah. We're at 3.79% right now, and we're a little bit over, where it's 3.75 is supposed to be the max.
And just a comment on that specific line, if you look at our projected budget in private school placement, we did have a lot of shifts in students not requiring placements that we taught. And therefore, that was the primary reason why we had that excess funding to apply to prepays for FY '25.
All right. I will entertain a motion to accept the final FY '24 expenditure report until audited.
So moved.
Moved by Joan,
You have to also approve the function codes that were overexpended.
okay, and let me modify that.
Okay.
To approve the FY '24 expenditure report and approve the changes to the function codes.
So moved.
Moved by
With
Joan,
revisions.
second by?
Well, can I ask then, but I get, so now in the current year, you're gonna give us, we overspent this category, but we pulled it from this category. And we may get that in the future. We're not getting it for right now.
Just
Because
for the
I
FY.
remember us approving the expenditure report, which in essence is us approving the overages, because you show us the overages by each line, so I just don't know why we're being so specific now.
We're required by
We're not
MGL.
saying where the funds are coming from.
We're required to. It's a practice we should have been doing.
We should have been doing.
And, it's,
And I think it also gives greater transparency as to, yes, you could look at a report and see that it's overexpended, but now going forward, you're gonna know where the money is coming from.
But that I get, we just don't have it right now.
Well, you'll have it for '25. That will be my next report.
No, I know, I find it bizarre that we're now approving, like.
I think it's just to bring us into compliance,
It's
just to
no
bring us into
additional.
compliance, correct?
I know, I don't understand it.
So, motion was by Joan, looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Chris. Any additional discussion?
Can I just add one thing? So So we discovered that we were out of compliance in June. And this corrective measure was the conversations of the finance team of how do we, it's not perfect, but it's an adjustment.
So can we just go over again, what's the approval that we're specifically approving related to the overspend? How are we wording this?
Yes, so you are approving, obviously, the report until audited, and then you're approving that these line items are overexpended, that we have not adjusted the budget, but we have overexpended those budget line items.
John?
Sorry, we paid for an auditor though, don't we?
Yes.
And they miss this every year over year?
No, one of their recommendations is that we look at it, but they did not say that we were required to do this, to adjust our budget, but they did make a recommendation that we look at that going forward. It was in their notes.
Right, but as the auditor, we probably should tell them that it's required, and they should have actually told us.
Yes.
They should have been a little stronger
Yeah.
in the audit,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
We probably should just let them know.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we had the audit, we were high-fiving each other, so
Yes.
it sounds like this is a slight little problem, because we're sitting here fixing it,
I
but
will
they
say
should have
I've
caught that.
surveyed a number of neighboring communities, and not that this makes it right, but I don't think any
No.
other committees are doing this.
No. I
So
agree.
can I just ask, what alerted us to it now? Like, it was
I'm sorry, I
did you, what alerted us that we weren't?
How'd you find out in June?
We had a committee member who
So
attended.
the school committee member took charting the course, and this was part of the training around what's required by law in terms of the school committee's responsibilities for approving the budget and approving line item transfers.
Great, and that charting the course, that's for new members, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, not hearing any further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote. John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes, still
And-
wait.
And I am a yes, motion passes. Thank you, Becky.
So the next item that I'd like to report on is our excess and deficiency, because as I alluded earlier, we have already been certified, which is absolutely amazing. When we got the email, I thought it was a typo. So we do need to submit to the Department of Revenue by September 30th all of our financial data, including our end-of-year report. Our financial accountant worked with our new district treasurer to submit our financial documents to the Department of Revenue. I think she had it submitted by the end of August. And on September 9th, we did receive word that our excess and deficiency had been approved and had been certified. Typically, we were looking at like a November certification date in prior years. So this was very quick, and I think it's just a testament to the work that Joe and Sunny are doing on the financials. You can see that our balance in our excess and deficiency is $1,122,309, which is 3.79% of E&D, so it's just slightly above the school committee policy balance, which is a range of 3.25 to 3.75. So we're pleased with that number. We're about the same level as where we were last year. And I think it's just, again, a lot of hard work on behalf of everyone in the district.
Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? I think it's great that we have these monies available to offset any potential budget increases for the next school year. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the excess and deficiency certification until audited.
So moved?
Moved by Paul,
Second.
second by Kathleen. Any further discussion? All right, Roll call vote. John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes, please.
And I am a yes. That is approved. Thank you very much for your hard work. Statement of revenue?
All right, in closing out fiscal year '24, we have our revenue report. And you can see over the course of last year, we received $28,639,660, which is actually about $500,000 more than we had originally anticipated in revenues. The biggest difference in that receipt were our Chapter 70 and our regional transportation reimbursement numbers based on where we thought we were going to be when we first originally put the budget together versus where we ended up. Our investment income, which the Fed may chip into after today's announcement, and then our circuit breaker extraordinary relief. We did receive that at the end of last year. And then we also received an additional $155,000 in regional transportation reimbursement that was unanticipated. So that is not reported up above in the regional transportation. We have reported that in the regional transportation fund down below, because if you recall in our April meeting, we had indicated to the committee that we wanted to put $150,000 into that account to assist with the athletic complex. So we took that overage that we had received and we moved that into the regional transportation fund. And those funds will be used this year to offset our regular education transportation.
That's great. Any questions or comments? All right, I will accept a motion to accept the final fiscal year 24 statement of revenue until audited.
So moved.
Moved by Paul.
Second.
Second by John. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, revote FY25 assessments?
Sure, so as you know, that when we build our budget, we are projecting many of the numbers as the governor's budget moves through the state budget process. We don't often have actual state aid numbers, transportation reimbursement numbers until after our budget has been approved. When the governor's budget was passed in, I think, June? July. We received the actual Chapter 70 regional transportation numbers, which were more favorable than what we had projected. So I'll let Becky explain the amounts and the options.
Sure. Yeah, so as Greg said, we had used the governor's budget when we were building the FY25 budget and the assessments, and we also used our FY24 transportation, regional transportation reimbursement number because we wanted to be more conservative because that number seems to fluctuate throughout the budget process. So once we received our final numbers, we did realize that the Chapter 70 had increased to, the governor's budget had the $30 per student, whereas the final budget ended up at $104 per student. So we did realize an additional $127,000 in our Chapter 70. And then we also did see an increase in our regional transportation. And the other thing that also changed, and we have not seen this in previous years, the minimum local contributions for both of our member communities also changed. Northbridge went up by about $120,000 and Southbridge went up by about $37,000. So those factors, coupled with the fact that when we had also built our budget, we assumed that we were going to fully bond the amount that had been approved at the two town meetings. Since the athletic complex is not yet complete as regards to the amenities building, we have not bonded the entire project. So our debt assessment for that project to the towns also changed. So there were a number of factors really that contributed to this difference. So for Northborough, we are looking at a difference of 203,178 to the good to them. And then for Southborough, it is a difference again, positive for the town of $126,812, excuse me. So we are bringing this to the committee tonight for a discussion, to see if it's the will of the committee to revote the assessments to the 2 member communities based on the revised numbers that have come from the state.
And if the committee decides not to revote the assessments and keep the assessments as is, then what's the outcome?
So the additional money would then fall to the bottom line to our E&D at the end of the year.
And if we do vote?
It goes back to the, and reduces the town's assessments.
Can you make an adjustment to our capital assessment to bring it back down to?
So one of my recommendations is that we do have the amenities project that we are struggling to, our budget is not meeting what the bids are coming in at. So Keith will explain the difference. One option is to not revoke the assessments, use this additional funding to be able to finish phase 2 of that and build out the amenities building as we had indicated. So that is one option.
Well, it seems like it would be similar to a capital assessment. Do we achieve that just by voting that that's how we would use the funds, or is it?
It just goes to the bottom line, and how the school committee appropriates that money could be for the amenities building, could be for any other, to go into the E&D at the end of fiscal year 25. There's no need, it's under the control of the regional school committee. Nothing's changed.
So,
My vote would be not to give it back on the basis that we asked for the ability to take excess and create the fund for capital development, so we wouldn't have to assess the towns at a later date. So why? And then you said, come back to us when you need the money. We know we're facing additional capital projects. We know we're facing the amenities building, and we're going to be asking for more capital funds anyway this year. So I would not recommend changing the assessment.
other comments? Paul?
Is that a question? What did you say about the bonding for the facilities project that hasn't been done yet?
So we haven't fully, if you remember, we were approved for like $7.9 million. I think it's 7,986. We have not expended all of that. At this point in time, I think we've bonded 7.5 million. So we still have another 400 million left that we could potentially minus the CP. Minus this, I'm sorry, what did I say?
400 million.
Oh,
That'd be nice.
good.
We can do a couple of amenity buildings.
Minus the CPC fund. So we have additional money that we could still go out to bond for. And since we have not, the interest that we're paying on those bonds is lower than what we had projected back in February.
So the 2 phases, phase 1 is bonded, which is the stadiums and the fields, track. Phase 2 is the amenities building. That is what we're struggling with right now.
So if we were to keep this money, which is what we're talking about, would it effectively reduce the amount that we ultimately have to bond?
It would not affect that because
So the issue is that the bids came in almost $500,000 more than what the cost estimator said it would be. So we are $500,000. We are $500,000 short funding that we would have to go back to the towns and ask for to fully move forward with this part of the project.
And this might be slightly off topic, but it's not really off topic, but as it relates to the amenities building, because we have completed the athletic project, we have to make the changes to the amenities building, correct? So are we obligated to make those changes?
So we are exploring what we are obligated to do. Keith did have a meeting with the town
Building inspector.
building inspector. So we have some understanding of what our options are. So we are exploring what that looks like. Like, are we obligated? If we do nothing? And during those games or events where we know the stadium will be full, do we then add porta potties for those specific events? So we're trying to see what our options are. I think my preference is to move forward and accomplish what we said we would do to the citizens of Northborough and Southborough, and make the amenities building fully ADA compliant.
Any other questions or comments? I'm of the mindset that it's not a matter of necessarily keeping that money. That money has already been assessed to the communities of Northborough and Southborough. So I think we were given, this project was approved, and so I think it makes sense that using that money to attempt to get an appropriate bid is an appropriate use of that money. Any other?
I'm hesitant because, yeah, it was approved, but now we're asking for more, well, we need more money.
Oh, I guess the part.
And, it hasn't really been approved. It was a capital, it was an article in the town meeting, it was a capital expense that people approved, but now we need more.
I guess the other question, again, I guess to that point would be, would we still have to go back to the towns to bond more is that enough? I guess the question would be.
So the commitment we made to the community is the budget that we said, the $470,000, that's the amount we would bond. If the school committee voted these assessments, re-voted the assessments, and the money went back to the town, regardless, we would have to go back and ask to reassess each of the communities the difference for the project. We would need to do the notice of assessment. They would have 60 days to reject or hold a special meeting. If they do nothing, then we get the money. The end result is potentially the same. We're not bonding more. We're finding the difference in basically the operational budget of the.
So we're taking savings from the operational budget to pay a capital expense, basically.
Yeah, the way that I envision this working is that we would petition to utilize funds from E&D, and then we would allow these funds to fall to the bottom line at the end of the year. And that's probably the mechanism that we would do to make this work.
But unless I'm mistaken, looking back at, remind me how this worked, but in the assessment schedule that's here, there's a line item for capital assessment. And we chose as part of the budgeting process to arrive at an operating budget and then recognize we had capital needs that we wanted to cover over a period of time. So we put an assessment in that in total, maybe it was close to 500,000, 40,000, from the expectation of spending it over multiple years and reassessing each year. So I feel like what we'd be doing, our assessment is not for the operating budget, our assessment is for the needs of funds in our current year. And maybe it's us voting, with a little bit of help, as you just demonstrated to us with the 2024 closeout and the reallocation of funds to say, we thought we'd spend this, we spent that, but I have other sources. If we can achieve this via a vote, I think that would be the most appropriate thing to do, because we're spending the money aligned with what our mission is, which is to provide good facilities, an educational environment, and we're not doing anything that far removed from what we've discussed here. All we're really dealing with is the fact that outside of what we provided a good faith assessment, it's now less because of the known variables that were unknown at the time, and we have an over expenditure on the amenity building because the estimate goes off, and that's the reality of construction as I understand it. So to me, I feel like with a little bit of guidance from you guys, if we can do this as a committee to go with the fund in a different way. I think that's the best way to handle it. My opinion of one.
Is it possible to have this as a discussion item at the next meeting?
I was just gonna say that.
Or maybe even later tonight after we hear about the facilities project. I guess another question is this enough to cover, or do we think it's enough to cover the facilities project, the amenities building? I mean,
So why don't we, actually, it's a good idea. I think the goal this evening was to present the assessment information, have a conversation, present the athletic complex, where we are in terms of the amenities building. Nothing needs to be done tonight. It's not going to give us, we don't have to do anything tomorrow. So I think bringing it back to the October meeting is not going to change any of the timelines that we have at this point.
Are we good with that? I think that's a good idea. All right. We'll move that discussion to next month.
So now we'll move into FY '25, the monthly general fund report as of August 31st. So this represents the first 2 months of the fiscal year. You can see that we have expended just over $3 million, and we have encumbered $23.5 million in FY '25. The majority of those encumbrances are for salaries that are going to be paid out over the course of the fiscal year. The budget balance is $1,186,000, or 4.26% of the operational budget. And as I mentioned, I am going to be highlighting those accounts that are currently overexpended, and I will say they're overexpended almost in theory because they're encumbrances of what we anticipate spending over the course of the year. In terms of salaries, our projections in one line item that I'm really hoping is going to come down, and that's our heating costs. Right now, we're projecting an over expenditure of about $46,000. However, we do have a change in our natural gas price that will be happening as of November 1st. So I'm really hoping that that is going to come down. But I have identified where we are taking those funds from and what the reason was for that over expenditure. So again, I would ask for the committee's approval of the report until audited, and then also approval of these line items.
All right. Any comments, questions? I will entertain a motion to accept the FY '25 monthly general fund expenditure report, as well as the line items that were indicated, line item changes that were indicated until audited.
So moved.
Moved by Paul.
Second.
Second by Sean. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, the motion passes.
And then the last you'll hear from me tonight is on the FY '25 revenues. Again, this represents the first 2 months in the fiscal year. You can see that we did receive our September 1st assessments from both towns at the end of August. Other revenues that we've received are our Chapter 70 and our charter school state payments. Our investment income continues to be healthy, and we also saw athletic fees over the summer for our fall sports season. And down at the bottom, we have, again, indicated what our certified E&D amount is as of September 9th, 2024.
Sean?
No.
All right.
Just stretching.
All right, I will accept a motion to accept the FY '25 statement of revenue until audited.
So moved.
Moved by Paul.
Second.
Second by Chris. Any discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen? Matt?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
So next in your packet is the FY '26 budget priorities, which are FY '25 budget priorities move forward. I will work with the chair around the best process to convene a subcommittee to come up with a draft so we can present the budget priorities for discussion at the October meeting. Also in your packet is the calendar of budget milestones. So this is our running record. We'll, Cheryl Leffrey updates this as budget meetings happen. But this gives us kind of a cadence of what to expect month to month for the upcoming year. And lastly, the athletic complex project update. So I'll turn it over to Keith to provide an update on the amenities, which is phase 2 of that athletic complex project.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Included in your packet is a memo from Becky and myself related to where we are in the process, and as it's been alluded to, there's been some obviously accurate information shared tonight on where we are, but I hope to give a little more context of what occurred and where we are now and what we're looking to do in the near future. So phase 1 of the project is complete. That was the public works portion of the project. Approximately $7.3 million was invested into the athletic facility. At this current time, we just have a few small outstanding items that we're working with DW on coming back and getting done as far as a punch list is concerned. We are still in great communication with them and to get those items executed hopefully in the very near future. We do expect that these items will not have any interruption to athletics or any other events here at the high school. The second thing I want to mention is this was the construction portion of this project, which we've discussed just a little bit before, that required our compliance with a different form of MGL to go through with it, which impacted the amenities building. So we did hire design services through RGB at Architects of Providence, Rhode Island in December of 23. We worked with them throughout the winter to put together a solid scope of work based on the prior cost estimates that we received. We went out for invitation for bid in March and April. We quickly discovered through the sub-bid contracts that we were going to go over our budget significantly from the very beginning. So instead of going through that entire process and wasting time, we decided to void that procurement and go back and figure out and answer the questions of why we were getting such high bids, and then consider alterations to what that bid would look like for a second round. So what we were told anecdotally from contractors is that because we had a aggressive timeline of wanting to get this project done during the summer months, there was a premium of work available. And a lot of contractors that are in this field at the time commented that did have an impact, as well as some of the other things we've heard about construction. So it wasn't just a sole reason, and then again, this wasn't formal, this was anecdotal. So we did decide to adjust the timeline of our project and to become more of a winter project, with the hopes of capitalizing on more open schedules and more availability of a variety of contracts, so we would get more competition. So we stuck with the same scope of work. We went out to bid in June and July, with a closing of the end of July. And we did go through the complete process of doing the sub bids as well as the general contracting bids, and that's why we commented that a little bit of that procurement was over $1 million, which was double what we had anticipated being the cost estimate of. So at this time, we want to consider all the options that would be available to us, and as we outlined in the document, considering potentially altering our scope of work, and then obviously the assessment, which is part of the discussion that we're having, as another pathway to get this work complete, and potentially the John Wysocki $1 million donation that's coming would be greatly appreciated.
You only need $500,000.
Whatever. We're going to make it really special, John. So it's not just one pathway that we want to talk about and discuss. We want to consider alternatives to where we are now to see what's available. So Becky did an excellent job of kind of putting together the financials around this, of where we are, with the hope of helping to richen the conversation. Do you want to mention anything?
No.
All right. Okay.
Sean?
This doesn't answer the question about what do we do next, but I'm just wondering, The group that put together the initial cost estimate, the same group who did the cost estimates for the
They
the
did
rest
not.
of
They go ahead.
Well,
I'm just wondering how.
Well, we
how
had two cost estimators
Okay.
who.
Okay, I was just wondering how one came in so solid and one came in
Different.
so off. You know, I'm just wondering the why. You know.
I think Gale's, what their projection was for this building was pretty in line with what RGB had. They were in about the $400,000 range as well.
We had
And-
another company.
Yes, yeah, and, what, RGB told us after the bid went, is that they went out for another bid shortly after ours, like a week after this $1 million came back, and the result was the same. So again, it's like this change in the construction market where costs are
Okay.
just, yeah.
It's like one was so spot on and the
Yeah.
other one's so not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it raises the point that Paul brought up earlier, which is even the assessment, if we were to go with this, the change in the assessment, or the savings in the assessment isn't enough to cover the difference.
Well, we have $470,000 left, which is what we had originally allocated for the project. We have $150,000 in the transportation bond for this reason, because we knew it was gonna come in over budget. We didn't realize how much. And then if you add the 330,000, we're about that 900,000, 950. We feel like if we go out to bid and we work with the architects, we can get there.
How long is that bid valid for?
It was like 30 days.
Okay. So is there an anticipation that the cost is gonna go up as time goes on?
That's a great question. It's a question that I asked as well. As best as they could, they did not estimate that it
They wouldn't even
would.
provide an estimate?
It would be significant. They're not gonna say that definitively, but I think they are seeing a little stabilization of the market with those larger ticket items. So, you know, but they weren't gonna say that definitively.
It's like Moore's Law every.
Exactly.
All right, any other questions or comments on that?
Yeah,
Paul?
I mean, you laid out 3 options here
Mhm.
in this memo. To me, 2 and 3 are not viable. I mean, number 2 removes the concession stand. I mean, not viable. And 3 sounded like the same thing, really. I mean, it removes the concession stand, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the first game, I think we had food trucks, right, Sean? The second game, I don't even know if we had that, but, you know, it's just,
They had pizza.
that's right, it was pizza.
But in my opinion, the stadium and the experience has been phenomenal the first 2 weeks. It'll be even better.
Yeah.
You need bathrooms that are, that you don't have to go into a plastic
I think
bowl.
again, going back to what did we present at town meetings?
Right.
That we said we were going to do.
Yes.
And if we're going to do something different, then I think that needs to be communicated.
Greg, I remember one of the very first meetings we had on this whole project, and you said something like, I don't want to have a beautiful new stadium and porta potties.
Yes. Yeah.
And I totally agree.
So one thing, Paul, that I just for consideration is what we are hearing is that for the concession stand, it's not just the remodeling of the current concession stand that's in the amenities building, it's the relocation of that
Right.
to the other side of the space. So one of the things that's considered is not to give up on the renovation of the concession stand, but keep it in its current location and add some of those real things that, you know, boosters would like to really have invested in, you know, some plumbing, 3-bay sinks to do the proper cleaning and potable water, all the things that we would want to do without putting the windows on the other side. And then reconfiguring the interior of that. So whether that would yield enough of a differential to get within, that's something I don't know whether or not that would get us under the number that we wanted to be at.
So I think in the meantime, until our October meeting, we can revisit the bid procurement process. We actually could start the procurement process again and see what the market would yield. with a few minor changes so that, we might be pleasantly surprised and it might be $300,000 over what we anticipated, and that's a different equation. So I think that's work we can do regardless of the decision of the committee.
And, I mean, going back to your own discussion on what to do with this money, I mean, to me, this is an argument for making the change that we talked about, because we're seizing an opportunity. If the money is there, we just have to reallocate it, I guess.
All right, any further discussion? Thank you. Please go to the next. I think we're actually on to
old business.
Old business. 2024-2025 subcommittee and liaison assignments. So I think that's included in the it's included in the packet. If you take a look at it, you'll notice there are a couple of vacancies. So if you're interested in participating in the policy development subcommittee or the collective bargaining subcommittee or the curriculum review committee, please just reach out and I can push it down there. Any other?
Chris?
Yes.
Are there any collective bargaining
So we will
contracts that are going to be coming up?
No, so that is in 25, 26, next year.
And then the other question, what is the curriculum review?
That,
Seems like
that was a
old-
long.
It's inactive, yeah.
But
Oh,
I think-
inactive, okay.
But I do
Okay.
remember Paul Hessman had mentioned that we should reactivate that. So I think that is why we put it there, to really, there was a group of committee members, citizens who would be presented information about curriculum updates and what's happening and get feedback. So something we.
Is that the one that used to be the superintendent's curriculum review committee?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was quarterly or so.
Yeah.
I thought
Okay.
it was good. It was valuable.
Yeah. Okay.
Policy development and or distribution, there's none at this time. Public comment, any additional comment from the public or from the committee? Joan?
I have two I'd like to share. The first one was that earlier this evening, the NEF, Northborough Education Foundation, had their grant award reception. Greg made the opening remarks, and Sean Bevan was there to present and be part of the recipients of 3 awards that went to Algonquin Regional High School. There was a total of 11 grants. 3 went to Algonquin. The total cost was $38,000 that they gave out. Usually it's they revolve an non-rolling grant award, but this year it's only going to be once because the money spent. But I'd just like to highlight the first one. Michelle Kalin has already left, but she got a grant for Career Forge ERM on career exploration and innovation leaders, which is strengthening career exploration and work-based learning experiences for students at Algonquin Regional High School, which she also talked about, which was the internships. The second one was to Kimberly Honey as the librarian. She's working together with Megan Kelly. No, is she there? Kelty. And they're doing auto learning support for elementary and the ARHS students. And it's human-read audiobooks and textbooks through Learning Alley. And it also promotes independent reading, diverse learning styles, and the Universal Design for Learning, UDL. And the last one was for Brian Larson. He did the adventure course. It was good to hear about that, remembering previous years, my daughter being there behind the scoreboard, the adventure. The adventure course at Algonquin is a ropes course that all 11th and 12th graders participate in as part of the health and fitness curriculum. And I made a connection to Algonquin when I had to read out one, and it was about for the robotics. And there's robotics, they're starting it at Melican and doing some things there. And I thought, wow, this is wonderful because these kids are getting a heads up on what's going to be happening here when they come to the award-winning robotics team. So thank you very much. And thank you, Greg, for being there. And then the other one was that I had seen online, unable to get the Boston Magazine. I have no idea why. But they put in the top 100 schools, and I looked at the one top 130 public schools in Greater Boston, and this was their ranking for 2024. It is based on the Massachusetts Department of Education and Secondary Education, the limited amount of information on each school, which includes MCAS scores, SAT scores, and out of the top 30, Algonquin was number 20. So congratulations to us. I know there's different standards all the time. We've always talked about, you probably remember all the different standards when you hear about U.S. News Report. Do we get into it? I know even in years past, they wouldn't even, it would be, Southborough would be the last of the schools K to 8. They never looked at Northborough because we were too far away. So it's like this year, Northborough, Algonquin is in it, and whatever their standards were, but we're in the top 30, we're number 20, so congratulations.
Thank you. It's exciting.
We won't be pleased until we're number 1.
Any additional public comment? Personnel, distribution of personnel, reporting new staff appointments.
Yes, so as of September 18th is an overview of the personnel. Also in your packet is a review of the staff members who were appointed for the 24-25 school year. Just want to thank Sean and the team for a great job hiring. I think they hired some really fabulous new staff, and also Heather Richards and the HR team for their work behind the scenes.
Are there any vacancies? That's great to hear. All right. There are 2 communications included in the packet, one from MASC, Mass Joint Conference, and there's a thank you letter from the 50-year Union Committee for the Algonquin class of 1974.
Yes, so Sean gave the class of 1974 a tour, and they gave a new definition of seniors. And it was quite the experience, but it was nice for Sean to take the time to do that, and I think it was a memorable experience.
It was enjoyable. They were a little bit mischievous, but it was very nice to have them back, and they came out in big numbers, probably 50 or 60 of them.
Did they have a tour of the building?
Had they ever done it before?
Yeah.
No,
Or was this
no.
the first time?
Yeah, we showed them around.
So did
yeah.
they ask for some of the special things like the ramp and that? Did they ask
They had
for
all
the-
kinds of recollections of the parts of the building that were same as they were when they were here, and then many that are just totally different.
They're gone, yeah.
Thank you. All right, approval of bills and payrolls, that's all done online. And agenda items for next month, FY26 budget presentation by Becky, Fine and Performing Arts Department presentation, recognition of National Merit Scholars, and discussion on the transportation bid. Certainly if there's anything you would like to see added to the agenda, please feel free to email me. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Paul.
Second.
Second by Joan. Any discussion? No? Okay. Roll call vote. John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Matt? Kathleen?
Yes.
Thank you. And I am a yes. The meeting is adjourned at 9:23. Thank you so much.
Good night, Kathleen.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.